As we in Canada look at your country, we assume you are obsessed with it, and we also assume that you think you have it better than anybody in the world. And it may come as a surprise to some of our viewers and listeners that you actually don't think that. So let's do another excerpt from the book here. By no meaningful index are Americans today among the freest peoples of the world, you write. An American organization, Freedom House, measures freedom by the criteria Americans prefer: civil and political liberties. Year after year, about 50 countries, 50, do better than us on these measures. Our northern neighbor, Canada, stands far above us. The countries where people tend to think of freedom as freedom to are doing better by our own measures, which tend to focus on freedom from. Okay, here we are again. Let's revisit this again, like freedom to and freedom from. Do we understand these concepts well enough?
So, first of all, congratulations on getting one of the Canada references into the show.
Just doing my job, sir. Yeah.
But the serious point is, if you only insist on freedom from, then you're going to get trapped. It's not just that you're not going to think about vacation, parental leave, free kindergarten, childcare in terms of freedom, which you should do. It's also that in shrinking the government, you're going to create space for oligarchs, because power abhors a vacuum. So other people will rush in, social media platforms will rush in, they'll control the conversation about freedom. So two things go very wrong if you're only thinking about freedom negatively. If you think about it positively, then you have a chance for children to grow up in a situation where they can learn to think for themselves, control their emotions, have relationships, and have a better chance at freedom. And so the funny thing is that if you talk about freedom too much and in the wrong way, you end up boxing yourself in. You end up never thinking about it, which is, I'm afraid, the American condition too much of the time. And countries like Norway, or I'll say it, Canada, where folks talk less about freedom, may have laid the conditions better to actually live free lives.
You, of course, watched the Democratic Presidential Convention, where the word freedom was used every 30 seconds, which is unusual for the Democrats. Usually that's the Republicans' game.
Yeah.
What'd you think of all that?
That was super interesting. I was actually, for weird reasons, I was actually physically there. And it's interesting, right? Because there's a political move, which is they see Trump dropping freedom, right? As Trump moves more and more openly to just saying, I'm a leader, I want to die in bed in the White House, that's it. As they drop the word, the Democrats are picking it up, which is tactical and smart. And they started with a negative definition, because that is American common sense. So they're saying the Republicans will have the government in your bedroom, the Republicans will have the government on your back, the governments will have the government on your body, and we're going to free you of that. But then the Democrats are also able to talk about freedom as freedom too, which the Republicans can't, because the Republicans are way too much in the pockets of the people who need the government to be small and ineffective. So the Democrats can talk about freedom too, and you see them kind of gingerly pushing in that direction. It's unfamiliar, but they're getting there, and that's encouraging.
You saw the Vice President just the other day on 60 Minutes talk about the freedom to bear arms, which she does. She boasted about the fact she's got a Glock and she shot it. That's a different thing for a Democratic nominee to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to not focus so much on the example as on the prepositions. That it's the mental shift to thinking, okay, it's not just about pushing bad things away, but about having good things in the world. And it's consistent, by the way, with the tone of the campaign, right? So when people are angry and talk about freedom, that's a sign things are wrong. When people are happy and talking about freedom, that's generally a sign that they've got it right.
I'm going to do the thing you're expecting me to do now, which is to come back to Canada, and that is, my hunch is there are going to be a lot of people watching this who are going to think, wait a second, Canada more free than the United States? That's impossible. And in fact, we had a convoy of truckers and libertarians and anti-government types, anti-vaccine types who essentially took over Ottawa by driving all their trucks downtown about 3 years ago, and they did so because they were adamant that Canada was not as free as our neighbors to the south. What, in your view, are they missing?
I mean, I saw the convoy, but I didn't actually have a chance to talk to folks, so it's hard for me to say at that level, but I would make the point that freedom is not about impulse. And the way that before the Trump people dropped freedom entirely, the way they swing the whole conversation is that freedom is just about how you feel right this second, and how you feel right this second is valid. It's not about being right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. It's not about true or false. There is no true or false. It's just about how you feel very strongly right now. And that notion of freedom is powerful, it's persuasive, it's addictive. It's just not true. It's just incorrect. You can't be free unless you're recognizing other people's similarity to yourself, unless you're thinking not just about how I feel and how I'm hurt, but you're thinking about what I want the world to be like. I think that's probably the thing that they're missing, because the way the freedom conversation swung in the US, again, before Trump dropped it, was away from we have values we can talk about and towards everything I feel right now is valid, and I'm going to listen to my oligarchical leader because he's very good at expressing those hurt feelings.